I am not the type of person who desires the dissolution of the relationship when I perceive a problem with my wife. I did not hesitate to initiate a discussion with her. I inquired as to why she had ceased to communicate with me, embrace me, and maintain physical proximity. I even inquired as to why she appeared uncomfortable with my physical contact. It was challenging to persuade her to open up initially, but she eventually did so. What I heard was profoundly distressing. She stated that she did not feel like I was sufficient for her, that she had to assume responsibility for everything, and that she could not rely on me. She felt compelled to all decisions and responsibilities were assumed by her, including those pertaining to the children. She even suggested that perhaps she would be better off alone. This was a significant shock to me, but I was reluctant to engage in conflict with her. I love her deeply and I accepted her decision, reassuring her that I understood her pain. I promised her that I would work on my behavior so that she would not have to worry about it. I simply want to make things right because she means the world to me. However, it is challenging. Despite my best efforts, I still have my own thoughts that keep me awake at night. This is the reason I ended the relationship. I have sought the support of this group because I believe the accusations my wife is making against me to be untrue, at least from my perspective. I consider myself to be a good husband who adheres to the norms of the role. I work for approximately 8 or 9 hours from home and, upon completion of my work, I dedicate myself to the care of my sons. I engage in play with them, provide them with food, take the older child to swimming lessons and tuck them into bed at night. I am also willing to wake in the middle of the night if they require my assistance. My role does not end with the care of the children. I also undertake domestic tasks such as washing dishes and shopping for groceries. Furthermore, I engage in some cleaning, although my wife believes that I am not sufficiently efficient in this regard and therefore prefers to assume responsibility for it herself. In addition, I am responsible for the upkeep of our vehicle and other obligations associated with our recently acquired domicile. I undertake these tasks with the intention of facilitating her daily life, given my awareness of the challenges inherent in raising 2 young boys. However, I am not always the type of individual who is consistently proactive. There are individuals who are unable to remain stationary for more than a few minutes without contemplating their next course of action, whether it be identifying potential areas for improvement, considering the inception of a new business venture, or determining the remaining chores that require attention. My father, for instance, is one such individual. The law is similar in this regard, but I have my own distinctive approach to work, which I believe is acceptable. Once the children are asleep, the work is completed, and the house is in order, I look forward to unwinding with a film or some video games. I have always been an entrepreneurial type, with a desire to start my own business. I thrive when I am given tasks to excel at in my field. There is nothing to be ashamed of, many people are like me. I am not chasing a flashy career or dreaming of swimming in money. I am just an ordinary guy. However, recent events have led to a shift in my circumstances. My wife has expressed concerns about my approach, despite the 9 years of marital bliss we have enjoyed. The issue reached a boiling point in December, and since then, I have been attempting to alter my natural disposition. I have been engaged in additional grocery shopping, home maintenance, and limited leisure activities in the evenings. I anticipated that she would appreciate these efforts, but her demeanor remained unchanged. Consequently, I mustered the courage to confront her. My emotions were running high, and I looked her directly in the eye. The question was posed to her point blank: "Do you even want to save our marriage?" Her response was a profound revelation. "I don't know," she said, her words striking me like a ton of bricks. I was taken aback by her apparent lack of awareness or indifference. I grit my teeth and pressed on, asking her if she was willing to engage in marriage counseling. Once again, she responded with the same infuriating answer, which I found difficult to accept. I was at my wit's end and snapped at her, stating that this was not the time for indecision, as our children could end up with divorced parents if we did not act fast. Furthermore, her lack of commitment was unacceptable. After much prodding, she finally agreed to go to therapy, but she showed no interest in taking any initiative. I had to do all the legwork in finding a therapist myself. During one of our counseling sessions, she dropped some brutal truths that cut me to the core. She said she only married me to impress her family and fit into their idea of a perfect happy family with beautiful children. She admitted that she was never truly in love with me but was merely enchanted by the idea of marriage. It subsequently transpired that she had consulted with her fellow priest regarding our marriage without my knowledge. This act of betrayal provoked a profound sense of anger and hurt in me, yet I persevered and sought the assistance of a qualified therapist for us. We have now reached our third session, but the process has not been straightforward. We have discovered that we have different love languages. I crave physical touch, while she prioritizes getting things done. This has led to a constant struggle, and to compound the issue, she has not shown me any physical affection since we began counseling. There have been no hugs or touches. The therapist was initially taken aback when she learned that my wife and I had not slept in the same room for 6 consecutive months. My wife attempted to justify this by claiming that she had been sharing the bed with our children, which left no room for me. However, the therapist was not persuaded by this explanation. The therapist was forthright in her assessment, stating that it was a poor example to set for the children and that it was denying my wife's own father access to the bedroom. She even suggested that we should go to IKEA and purchase a single bed to place next to the larger one. I proceeded to do just that, purchasing the bed. I have now assembled the bed and am sleeping in it, but I still feel as isolated as before. My wife is situated to the left, the boys are in the middle, and I am on the far right. I feel like an outsider in my own marriage from the very beginning of this issue. My wife has been changing her story, claiming that she is depressed from being stuck at home with the children all the time. She is also claiming that she said hurtful things because she was just too emotional. However, I would never dream of saying anything like that to her, no matter how upset I am. Upon my wife's return to work, we were forced to employ the services of a nanny to assist with childcare. The only discernible change in our relationship was an increase in communication. However, I am not merely her friend, I am also her husband. There is a notable absence of intimacy between us, and it does not appear that this will improve in the near future. It is becoming increasingly evident that there are no signs of improvement. My wife is not interested in our marriage counseling sessions. I am the one who has to keep setting them up. The situation is much worse than I had anticipated. My friends had warned me that my wife was cheating on me. Initially, I thought it was just a case of infidelity in a sci-fi movie. With regard to cinematic matters, I had previously considered it implausible that my wife would engage in such behavior. However, recent events have led me to reconsider this assumption. I recently observed her in a compromising position. A voice-activated recorder was installed in the car for a period of 3 days. During this time, the wife used the car to go to work and the gym. Upon returning home, the husband called her twice. All of the conversations were recorded and subsequently analyzed. The evidence obtained revealed that the couple were discussing personal matters, including their first meeting 9 years ago. Additionally, the conversations included details about attraction, inside jokes, and other intimate topics. It is difficult to believe that this level of intimacy has not been experienced between them for a considerable period of time. It is notable that they were planning a vacation together and that she wishes to visit him in July, giving him 2 years to move back to our country. It is difficult to comprehend the depth of their relationship. They were even discussing details of physical intimacy, with her stating that she is leaving him to be with him. They were discussing their preferred sexual positions, which suggests that they are very close. I listened to an hour-long recording of the conversation. I must process this information and meet with an attorney next week. I would not have purchased the voice recording device if it were not for the suggestion of a friend. I am not concerned about being accused of placing the device in the car. I do not feel guilty. I am preoccupied with thoughts of my children and the actions of the other party. Since last September, there have been indications that something untoward was occurring. It took me 2 months to notice changes in her behavior. Next week, I will be away from home for the entire week, so she will be using my home office. It is likely that she will be talking to my father in my office. Should I place a recording device in my office for the next week, or do I already have sufficient evidence? My wife has tried calling her ex-boyfriend 4 times in a row at 10 p.m. The telephone was called 4 times in a row at 10 p.m. I discovered the reason for my wife's repeated calls to her ex-partner through an app that saved our phone numbers and displayed incoming and outgoing calls. My wife had never mentioned her ex-partner before, so I was perplexed by her sudden and persistent calls. I decided to check her iMessages on her laptop after she had called him 4 times. She sent him a message saying, "I'm not giving up until you actually answer." I demanded that she communicate with me in a respectful and civilized manner. I was astonished to discover that she had been attempting to contact her ex-partner. However, she initially denied this until I provided her with evidence. She then admitted that she had been trying to reach him, but her story was somewhat convoluted. I am uncertain about how to process this information. It is important to note that this incident occurred when she began to distance herself from me. From her perspective, it is not a significant issue. It is peculiar and negative for her to have concealed this information from me. In my perspective, any contact with an ex-partner is a cause for concern and unacceptable. Is she being unfaithful? Our closeness has been lacking for the past 6 months, which is precisely when these calls took place. I now have concrete evidence that our issues are not due to the reasons she has been telling everyone. The reasons she has been giving to others are not the true reasons. In fact, she is unaware that I know. None of her family or friends are aware of the situation either. They believe that we are just going through a temporary rough patch. She comes from a Catholic family with 3 sisters. She attends church every Sunday. We live in a small town with a population of 177. We recently constructed a residence that remains unfinished. I have discovered that she intends to have me leave so that she can have time alone within 2 years. Her AP will move to our small town to live with her in our house along with our 2 young boys. She claims that she needs a father figure for her children. Interestingly, the AP is actually her first boyfriend. The couple were together for 7 years before she married me. They have been together for 9 years, although he lives abroad and frequently visits our country. I will not allow myself to be manipulated in this way. I have hired a lawyer and will be meeting with them soon. I have recordings that could potentially damage her reputation. My cheating wife did not see my next move coming. I spoke to my lawyer and obtained some evidence. It would be unwise to pursue a strategy of attempting to ruin her life during the divorce proceedings. We have children together and I will be co-parenting. I am to be a parent to her for the next 15 to 16 years, so I must be mindful of that. Furthermore, I respect her family and do not wish to involve them in the divorce proceedings as witnesses. Additionally, I do not have a chance of winning custody since the children need to be with their mother in the small town an hour away from me in the capital city. I would not even be allowed to sell our house because the children require a suitable place to live and there is no alternative. The accommodation they are currently occupying is owned by her father and it is therefore a temporary arrangement. This is an unsatisfactory situation, but it is a reflection of the reality in the Czech Republic and in Europe more generally. Following our conversation, the lawyer sent her the divorce papers, which were scheduled to be delivered immediately after Easter in the Czech Republic. Yesterday, I had a day off, so I took care of my 1-year-old child. A year has elapsed since the aforementioned incident. My son was residing in the capital city, approximately an hour away. Meanwhile, my brother assisted me in packing my belongings from the apartment and loading them into his vehicle, further complicating the situation. The postman delivered the divorce papers or an invitation to mediation, which would allow us to divide our assets in an amicable manner, according to the papers. She is currently in a relationship with a man whom she refers to by his first and last name. This is the reason for the divorce, according to her. However, the evidence I have will be useful for child support and other related matters. It will be leverage in my face when she walks into the house. I confronted her and told her I knew everything. I insisted that she contact my lawyer. I then informed the lawyer of my intention to proceed with the divorce. I subsequently handed her the divorce papers and left to visit my parents. Upon my return, I was informed that my ex-wife had asked how I had obtained this information and had denied everything. My parents were shocked but believed me. I recorded the entire conversation, following my lawyer's advice. I asked my parents if they thought I was a good husband and father, and they approved. Consequently, my ex-wife cannot deny this. I informed them that I intended to use them as witnesses against her in court. They were fully aware of the gravity of her actions and the devastation they had caused to our lives. I expressed my gratitude for their understanding and proceeded to the capital city. Meanwhile, I contacted a friend who had helped to disseminate the news to a circle of friends. 2 hours later, my brother, my in-law, subsequently telephoned to inform me that she had confessed to having an affair with the AP. However, she had conveniently omitted to mention any closeness between them. He proceeded to fill me in on how everyone was on my side and how she had destroyed our once perfect family. He then suggested that everything could be salvaged because he had also cheated on his wife and they were now living happily together. This was met with disbelief. My in-law then called her father, who blamed her and stated that the AP would never set foot in his house again. He also cut off financial support for my soon-to-be ex. My wife attempted to contact the AP, but the individual in question did not respond. In a rather implausible turn of events, the aforementioned individual believes that the situation can be salvaged. However, my sister has sent me a text indicating that she is fully supportive of my decision, yet she also believes that the situation can be salvaged. While it is encouraging to have their support, it is also concerning that they may be delusional. It is difficult to fathom how this situation could be magically fixed. This is infuriating. I am of the opinion that our relationship cannot be saved. I am confident that the relationship can be salvaged. However, I am concerned that others may perceive my decision to leave my partner as lacking sufficient evidence. They are unaware of the specific evidence I have, which includes recordings of my partner making suggestive comments, such as "make sure you can last longer than 3 seconds when I come to visit you in Brussels." I am curious to know if her father's Johnson is as large as hers. The woman in question is invited to assess the comparative length of her brother's genitalia and to share her observations with the author. Affectionate sentiments are expressed and the imminent departure from the marital home is announced. The recipient is encouraged to record a video and send it to the author, who is keen to gain insight into the reality of life without her. A 2-year period is allowed for reflection and potential reconciliation. The author's own actions are presented as a radical departure from the norm, and the recipient is left to contemplate the implications of this decision. The author then proceeds to call the recipient, who is identified as being in possession of the requested video. As anticipated by my acquaintances, the woman in question has been contacting me via text message, expressing her lack of understanding regarding her actions and the necessity of my presence in her life. I express my regret for my actions and await her return. My legal counsel has presented the terms of my divorce, which I have requested. We are now awaiting her legal representative's response. In the interim, my mother, in conclusion, my wife's sister, has been sending me messages containing Christian links about forgiveness, which have convinced me that my wife has been possessed by an evil spirit. Furthermore, her sister has been blaming me for ruining the marriage, claiming that it is my fault for being selfish. However, my wife's demeanor suddenly changed. She became teary-eyed and apologetic, expressing a desire to undo the past. In a surprising turn of events, I became the villain, the selfish one, the one who was destroying the marriage by divorcing her. I was suddenly the bad guy, the one who was willing to die for wanting out. I felt a momentary sense of guilt, as if I were to blame for the situation. It seemed as though they truly knew. It is challenging to persuade me, but I am resolute in my decision. The divorce is inevitable, regardless of the circumstances. In the Czech Republic, children of a similar age to ours are expected to reside with their mother in the event of a divorce, given that she lives an hour away in a small town and the children attend kindergarten. Furthermore, there is no 50-50 split that is feasible. I will be in every other weekend and I will have some additional access whenever I want. It is sad and painful, but it is what it is. I have been considering this unusual idea of suggesting some terms to reconcile with her. I do not love her anymore, but I do it for the rationale behind this proposal is that I care about the children and that I would not be able to provide for them adequately in a marriage. Instead, I would enter into a partnership with her, with separate finances. She would need to move from her hometown to the capital city where I live. Furthermore, I would insist on having a GPS device in her car, even when she is older and cannot drive. I would also check her phone daily. In return, I would allow her to have a relationship with other men. I am permitted to engage in romantic relationships with other women for a period of 7 months. I may even engage in extramarital sexual relations and not inform my partner if she discovers my infidelity. There is no possibility of marriage. I am not particularly concerned about this idea, which is merely a passing fancy. I am unlikely to pursue it further, as I am simply seeking to deflect the accusations made by my family. I am currently considering abandoning my children. This is a decision that I have not yet made, but it is one that I am seriously contemplating. I am aware that this is a decision that could have significant consequences, and I am seeking to understand the implications of this course of action. I am currently residing with my parents, sleeping on the living room couch. My clothes are scattered on chairs, and I am using the dining table as an improvised office and entertainment center. I work from home for approximately 8 hours a day, and then I pitch in with chores for my elderly parents, who are 90 and 82 years old. I handle groceries and drive them to doctor appointments. In addition to this, I try to go to the gym or catch a movie to distract myself from negative thoughts. I see my children every weekend when my ex drops them off. I drive them back merely to clarify the situation. I have conducted a paternity test which has confirmed that the boys are mine. The divorce proceedings are currently ongoing, and it is difficult to predict how they will conclude. I am currently residing at my parents' place. As a father of 2 and an adult child, I have no other place to go. Therefore, I am requesting my wife has agreed to take over the mortgage for the house, but is offering only a third of the money I'm asking for. She justifies this by saying that it is my contribution to building the house. This is a somewhat messy situation, as I did not cause it, but I do need a place to live. I am therefore seeking a solution that will allow me to purchase a flat. The sum she has offered is insufficient to purchase a flat. The ongoing discussions with our lawyers have not yet yielded a resolution. She wishes to retain the house, but may be compelled to sell it, a course of action she should have taken at the outset. The mortgage payments and the payment to me will present a significant challenge for her. The future will reveal the outcome. With regard to child support, she is requesting a sum that is not commensurate with the reasonable amount. Furthermore, she is insisting that I should be responsible for transporting the children from the small town and returning them at the end of the weekend. This entails a significant expenditure of fuel and time on my part. In my opinion, this responsibility should be borne by the other party. Alternatively, she should be dropping them off and I should drive them back. This demonstrates that she is the one responsible for all of this, yet she is also ready to argue about the divorce terms. This is frustrating. My wife tried to convince me that she is remorseful and regrets what she has done. She informed me that she had terminated her relationship with her illicit partner. She had consulted with an exorcist and confessed the details of her infidelity to God. I expressed my indifference towards her spiritual advisor and asserted that I would prefer her to confess to me. I gave her an opportunity to confess and inquired about the frequency of her interactions with him. She denied this. At this juncture, I inquired about the party she had attended with her colleagues from work in November. I inquired as to why she had rented an Airbnb for the night instead of staying at the residence of one of her acquaintances. She became visibly disconcerted and was unable to articulate a response other than to inquire as to why I continued to dwell on the matter. I explained that if she truly felt remorseful, she would not continue to lie. 2 months after I left her, it was evident that she was not being honest. I informed her that for me, closeness over video chat is just as significant. I am aware that she had an intimate relationship with him. She was unable to recall the number of times she had engaged in sexual intercourse with the AP. I then confronted her, asking her how she envisions us getting back together. I pointed out how she would initiate a conversation with me and then lie in the very next moment. I asked her if she was aware that the woman in question was observed to be checking her mobile phone on a daily basis. She was asked whether she considered this to be an act of trust. In response, she stated that it was not an act of trust, but rather an indication of her being treated in an unkind manner. At this point, our son interrupted the conversation and the discussion came to an end. I then added that it was not just me who had been cheated on, but also our 2 sons. This information caused the woman to become distressed and she began to shout at me, stating that I should not mention this to our children. It is interesting to note that my wife's sister had previously informed me that my wife was sad and cried every day because of this situation. Despite her outwardly sorrowful demeanor towards her family, she was in fact engaged in an extramarital affair. She informed me that she could be with her lover and that her family would not object. She even went so far as to say that I should be grateful that she had ended the relationship. Following discussions with a lawyer, we have agreed to a divorce. The divorce proceedings will be concluded shortly. She will receive the unfinished house and the mortgage will be her responsibility. I wish to clarify that this is not a vindictive act on her part. It is not about seeking revenge for her infidelity. It is about the well-being of our children. I am reluctant to continue residing in her hometown, which is situated an hour's drive from my current place of residence. Nevertheless, I am seeking to recover the financial investment I have made in the property, which is proving to be a relatively lucrative endeavor. The child support payments are also satisfactory, and we have agreed that she will take the children to the capital every other weekend. However, I find it challenging to cope with seeing my children only on weekends, and I am struggling to adjust to the reduced contact. 1 year. I would like to have the opportunity to be with my sons, who were raised without a father due to their mother's absence. However, the legal constraints prevent me from doing so. I am exploring alternative solutions, such as driving to their place midweek. Regarding my ex-partner, she has expressed her continued love for me and desire to undo the past. She claims that she still loves me and wishes she could undo the past. She experiences distress on a daily basis as a consequence of her actions. She has become desensitized to the extent that she no longer objects to me checking her phone. She has apologized to my parents and appears genuinely remorseful. She is willing to take any action necessary to rectify the situation. Here is an unexpected turn of events. It would appear that the individual in question has been terminated from their position as a result of an extramarital affair, according to mutual acquaintances. It is notable that the individual in question has a family in Brussels and was unwilling to risk being caught in the aforementioned affair. It would appear that the individual in question viewed the affair as a mere game, playing my wife. I am moving on from the affair and not allowing the individual's toxic behavior to drag me down. The divorce is proceeding and there is no I am moving on from this situation. I have better things to focus on and a brighter future ahead. Life goes on and I am not wasting any more time looking back at the mess she created. That was a fascinating story, but it is time to move on to another exciting one. Stay tuned for more updates on how you can tell. If your spouse is engaging in infidelity, it is possible that their mood may have undergone a sudden change. Additionally, it is worth noting whether they have been spending more time out in the evenings, expressing a desire to socialize with friends, or displaying any other unusual behavior. In my case, I had a strong intuition when I returned home from work and my wife was on the phone. Upon my return home, I immediately noticed that my wife had been on the phone. She abruptly terminated the call, stating that her companion was home. She then looked at me with an innocent expression, which prompted a strong suspicion in me. I considered inquiring about the nature of the call, but she could easily fabricate an explanation. The price of one for a cellulite treatment. Such thoughts did not simply pop into my head, there must have been a lingering doubt about my wife. I did not like it and I did not want it to bother me every day. I am not good with change, I prefer to stay out of something that is already working fine in order to avoid making it worse. To further complicate matters, I would like to introduce myself and provide some background information about my family. My name is Ron, and I am married to Cindy. We have been married for 4 years and have 4 children, 2 adults and 2 teenagers. While we are not wealthy, we are able to live comfortably thanks to our income. We do not have any debts. Cindy and I own a house that we have paid for. We are not in debt, and our cars are not new. We do, however, have a few small credit card debts. Overall, we are a typical American family trying to live within our means. On weekdays, we work, eat, and take care of our home. The younger children go to school, and on weekends, we occasionally go out together. Cindy and I try to keep up with our children's interests, whether it's sports, art classes, scouting, or any other activity. Sometimes, we even have family dinners around a common table, which is a rarity in these times. Our bedroom life is probably like most middle-aged couples. Couples of a certain age engage in sexual intercourse approximately every 2 weeks. While this may be perceived as insufficient by some, it is important to recognize that sexual desire is a complex phenomenon influenced by a multitude of factors. Cindy's lack of enthusiasm for this kind of intimacy is a source of concern. This reluctance may be attributed to a number of factors, including her natural reticence or a more underlying issue. It is crucial to remain vigilant and attentive to any potential warning signs. Any unusual behavior on her part prompts a sense of unease, as though I cannot trust her without any apparent reason. I am hoping that the persistent feeling of unease in my stomach is simply indigestion and not a sign of the underlying issue I suspect. The difficulty I face is that I am not a detective or an expert. I am simply an average middle-aged man. The individual in question is an elderly male who is unfamiliar with the techniques of hidden cameras, phone tapping, computer hacking and other forms of espionage. Furthermore, he is not wealthy enough to hire a private investigator to follow his wife, especially when he is unsure of the appropriate locations to search and the specific information to look for. Cindy manages. Given the state of our finances, I am unaware of her financial obligations. If I were to examine her financial records, she would likely become aware of my actions and inquire about the reason behind my apparent financial distress. What would be an appropriate response in such a situation? I would likely express my suspicions, which might be perceived as paranoia. She might then respond with a joking remark, such as "Honey, are you growing horns for me?" It is likely that you would prefer to take a break from this rather than deal with it. With regard to our family background, our marriage appears to be quite ordinary, as it should be at this stage of our lives. I met Cindy in our early 20s. We dated for approximately a year and then got married. Every 2 years, she had a baby. Honestly, I got tired of babies popping out like moles in a slot machine. Therefore, I had a vasectomy after her last birth. One night, everyone in our house, including 2 teenagers, my wife and I, had dinner together. The children talked about their school day, and Cindy shared details about her part. Following the commencement of their studies at university, Cindy's 2 youngest children left the family home. Consequently, Cindy sought employment, securing a part-time position at the local library. She was employed at the local library, where her schedule was irregular. This made me wonder whether the library was a place I should check out. However, how was I supposed to do that? Taking a day off work to watch who goes in and out of the library is not practical. I had a better idea. I could catch her at her women's card club tonight and start my private investigation. After she left, I would have the opportunity to do so. To follow her in my own vehicle, a reliable but old pickup truck, I had no option but to forego the rental car that my husband and other stories about cheating wives would have provided. Cindy left for the card club, and a few minutes later I quietly slipped out. I was aware of her destination, having been informed of it and provided with a telephone number. Unfortunately, I lost sight of her vehicle, so I drove to Marg's house, where the poker tournament was scheduled to take place. I observed Cindy's vehicle among others in front of Marg's residence. I then proceeded to wait, scan the street, and exit my vehicle, which was parked a couple of houses away. I then approached a window and observed 4 women at each of the 2 card tables, engaged in conversation, smoking, and occasionally laughing. The atmosphere was one of leisure and enjoyment, with no indications of impropriety. I was prepared to intervene and terminate the situation. I was operating under the assumption that the behavior I observed was indicative of a lack of restraint, but my investigation encountered an unforeseen obstacle. As I proceeded to retrieve my vehicle, I inadvertently stepped in a pile of dog excrement. I proceeded to waddle sideways in a manner reminiscent of a drunken crab with greased shoes towards the truck. I was forced to spend approximately 10 minutes cleaning the dog excrement off my shoes. It was imperative that I remove my shoes before I could hop back into my truck. The stench lingered, so I rolled down all the windows, accelerated, and made sure not to obstruct the inspector or risk a ticket for the foul-smelling environmental trail behind me. Despite the disastrous first attempt, I did not give up. My gut feeling, like a reliable compass, insisted that betrayal was looming. Once home, I shed my soiled clothes. I then proceeded to inspect my wife's undergarments. I proceeded to the laundry basket to inspect my wife's undergarments. Fortunately, she had not done laundry that week. I then checked her closet for revealing dresses and inappropriate clothing, and I went through every drawer in her dresser. I found nothing suspicious. I also searched the office file cabinet, but I found no evidence of wrongdoing. I found a binder of invoices and began to review them. The invoices were in a state of disarray, as though they had been randomly selected. I discovered nothing unusual with the exception of the hole in the bagel. Cindy was adept at concealing evidence of infidelity. I was impressed by her ability to hide such evidence. I then accessed her computer using the password she had informed me of some time ago, which was also printed out and hanging next to the computer. I proceeded to scroll through all of Cindy's emails, realizing that it was somewhat futile, given that we shared the same account. If there was any evidence of infidelity, it would have been evident in her emails. I would have noticed it long ago, as I had expected. However, I was unable to find any evidence. This was another dead end. I had been searching for 3 hours and had found nothing. I had no reason to doubt Cindy, but when I read stories online about people who had been unfaithful, there was always some evidence. This could be secret phone records, motel bills, unexplained spending, or other items. Private investigators were often hired to catch cheating spouses. Despite my best efforts, I have yet to uncover any evidence of infidelity. If Cindy is indeed engaging in such activities, she must be an expert at concealing her tracks and engaging in deceitful behavior. I have given up on trying to find proof of her infidelity and have instead focused on cleaning up the mess she has created. Cindy entered the house through the front door, kneeling by the laundry basket. She was holding my dirty underwear, and both of us froze in shock. Her eyes widened and she seemed to be experiencing a sense of panic. Cindy then suggested that we have a talk. She accused me of following her to the margins and described seeing my face behind the open window and hearing grunting. In the darkness, she questioned whether I had stepped in some dog poop. She even mentioned the location where Marge's dog did its dirty deeds. I dismissed the idea of Marge having a dog, likening it to King Kong. I sat there with a silly smile, dirty clothes in hand, feeling trapped. My face and neck grew hot, my throat went dry, and I lost the gift of English speech. I recapped recent events, expressing disbelief at finding Cindy sniffing me dirty laundry and questioning if she didn't. I expressed my doubt that she truly believed I was cheating on her, stammering in my defense. Cindy suggested we talk and led me to the living room, tossing the laundry in the hamper. I got up and followed her, landing on the couch. Cindy sat down next to me, folding her hands in her lap and looking at me intently and shrewdly. She asked if I was reading erotic stories again on my lunch break at work. I nodded embarrassingly. She inquired if the stories were about cheating wives. I acknowledged that I found Cindy attractive and asked if I thought of her when reading the stories. I responded that I did think of her, but justified my actions by explaining that I followed her to the margins because, upon returning home from work, I found her on the phone hastily saying that she had to go and hanging up. I then challenged her to explain her behavior. Cindy looked at me with raised eyebrows and a broad smile, shaking her head. She expressed uncertainty about whether to be angry with me or simply embrace me, her eyes twinkling. She mentioned that she was unsure of whom she should direct her feelings towards. In response, I furrowed my brow and regarded her intently, inquiring about the person she was speaking to when I arrived. I urged her not to lie to me. She shrugged, casually disclosing that she was conversing with my mother. My mother, it seemed, called her almost every day. Cindy appeared amused by my extensive investigation, triggered by a call from my mother. She remarked on how she felt foolish for forgetting about my mother, highlighting that my mother was yet another phone-happy individual. Cindy tilted her head, smiled slightly at my guilty conscience, and then moved closer, placing her hands on top of mine and squeezing them lightly. Cindy inquired if I had ever found her behavior suspicious or distrustful. I admitted that it was just a gut feeling. Cindy continued to smile and affectionately called me a miracle, expressing love despite my quirks. She wrapped her hands around my cheeks and declared me her favorite man, reassuring me of her love. She acknowledged the need to improve our closeness and suggested addressing it immediately with those words. She then took my hand and led me into the bedroom, locking the door, dimmed the lights and began undressing me. She asked if I felt better now, and I expressed my love and admiration, but questioned the warning signals from my gut. Cindy responded with laughter, accompanied by the gesture of holding her stomach and wiping away tears, accompanied the retrieval of a blister of pills from the medicine cabinet and their subsequent tossing on the bed. It appeared that she found humor in the situation. My wife then suggested that I take 2 pills for indigestion. She listened to the rumbling response of my stomach and gave me a stern look, urging me to stop sniffing her dirty underwear. She found it disgusting and agreed with Cindy, acknowledging that when Cindy is right, she is right.